Frank always, right from the start, had a degree of precision that the Canterbury stuff doesn't have. The Canterbury stuff is a little bit, as you said earlier, loose and a little bit kind of harmonically adventurous, shall we say? You know, they didn't worry too much about the rules. You know, they weren't adhering to the book. They weren't doing it according to what people expected. So there was always that awkwardness, which is what I like. You know, if something's too conventional. Even Zappa's stuff. Zappa did a lot of conventional stuff at various times, which kind of leaves me cold. But the Canterbury stuff, generally speaking, Caravan do leave me a bit cold. It's a bit kind of coffee table music. Although I do have In the Land of Grey and Pink, which I think is the one that I like of them. And Soft Machine, I haven't been able to get into. Maybe it'll click at some point. I must go down that rabbit hole again. But the two that I really sort of hold on to are Henry Cow and Hatfield in the North. Those are the ones that really sort of that give me what I want, which is a kind of an earthy otherworldliness that you don't really get very much of these days. So yeah, they ended up being a huge influence on this album, kind of justifying what I'd already thought with the saxophones and things. I mean, you were saying that the saxophones are quite good. I think I used two. There was and neither was perfect. But when I play them, I try and play it like a sax player would play. In fact, I am a sax player in my mind. I'm taking breaths and stuff, you know. I'm trying to think. I can't. That line's too long, you know. Same with the trumpet. When I was doing the trumpet parts, it was in my mind. I become that performer, even though I'm playing keyboards. To do it, it's a weird thing. Can't really explain it.
Yeah, I get that, you know. And the same thing too. I find I often have to use multiple VSTs of those kind of instruments to get the sound in my head, because some do things well and some they don't do well. Like I noticed, I think at the end of the last track there, you made heavy use of augmented strings and augmented voice. Because there's a really good sample there of like when the guy plays the low cello note or the bass, where you could hear the string slapping against the fretboard.
Yeah,
you use that to great effect there at the end of the album.
There's also some there's a lot of physical modelling on there. There's a couple of physical modelling. Swam. No, I didn't use a lot of Swam because the one I wanted to use was obviously the woodwind one, which has got the sax, or the woodwind or the brass has got the sax in it. But I can't get a copy without a virus, so my Windows keeps freaking out. So I haven't been able to get a copy of that. And I probably used the violins, I think. God, I can't remember now. I think I've got them listed on the album page, haven't I, as being in there? But I think it was more augmented strings. I think is absolutely fantastic, you know, because they have really nice phrasing on the samples, and it sounds real, you know, which is
that was my first piece of Arturio software, was the augmented strings. So that was the first augmented thing, and they're giving it away for free. The introduction version was free.
Yeah.
And I downloaded it, and I used it a bunch, and now I own the full version, and I fucking love it.
Yeah, the two saxophones were Monster Sax and DSK saxophones.
Nice.
DSK, I think, was free, and it's a guy called Devian something who's the player that they sampled. It's not perfect. They didn't do any sustained notes at all, so the notes are very short. So when you hear short notes, that's playing, and then the ones with the longer notes is the Monster Sax one. Just weird. I don't know why they did it that way. Also, the trumpet as well is weird. It's got no sustain, which I'm not used to. So it goes away after a while. It's just like the guy runs out of breath, and literally, and you can hear his breath. The note goes away, and you're just left with the breath. But that's fisical modelling, so they've modelled that somehow. But you'll hear, if you listen carefully, you'll hear the of the last breath. And on one of the tracks, I actually added breathing. I went in and did myself breathing in the gaps to make it sound like the player was taking breaths.
Wow.
I'm funny that way.
I like that.